Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr, following a
52-3
win over
Northwestern.
Thank you, Tom. Tom, how are you doing?
I'm good. I have this strangest sense of deja vu. It seems like we've watched the same football game 7 times.
Yeah, well, the good thing is next week there'll finally be a test. You know, because
I'm getting deja vu again because I feel like we've maybe had that conversation too.
And it is the same conversation. We could have the same conversation about the second quarter. Another 24 points for the Buckeyes. Mm-hmm. It is really, maybe it's deja vu season all over again. Everything is the same.
I don't think you're going to find many Ohio State fans who are going to complain about it or say they're bored with this fact that they're watching the same game over and over again.
I did hear some fans down there in the fourth quarter getting angry at some of the plays that Northwestern was able to make on offense while the score was, I believe at that time, 45-3.
So, still kind of in doubt.
Yes, true. There was plenty of time to come back in those final 5 minutes of the game.
Mm-hmm. With a passing offense that had 6 completions and 21 attempts. Anytime you can complete 28 or so percent of your passes. You're in any game at that point, no matter what the score is.
We knew it was going to be bad for the Northwestern passing game, but I wasn't probably thinking 6 of 21. I was maybe thinking 7 of 18.
Okay, 3.3 yards per rush.
Right.
Okay. And that was the good way that they moved the ball. 21 pass attempts, 42 yards. Let me do the math. 2 yards per attempt. I listened back to one of our shows earlier this week, and I went, we were kind of mean. We sounded kind of mean, and it was
just wait.
If Northwestern scores 17 points, people are going to be like, you idiots. Well, guess what? Nope, we weren't mean enough. Lesson learned.
No, but, we could make fun of their passing game, but I was surprised at how well they ran the ball against Ohio State. And we talked about it during the first half of the game. It's like they were able to make some chunk plays of 11, 10, 12. Mm-hmm. But at that point, they had still only rushed for 75 yards.
Right, yeah.
On 20 carries or 25 carries or whatever. But then now you look at it, 47 rushes, 157 yards. And I don't know I'm not sure if that's a season high against the Buckeyes. But they've had other junk yards like that. And I think the second half of these are junk yards. The first half weren't all that impressive other than a few plays. So it's this is a lot of yards for this Ohio State defense. I don't know how much it means, but with Wisconsin coming up, it's impossible to ignore.
Right, yeah. You can look at this 157 yards rushing and go, okay, well, it took them 47 attempts to get it. So really, that's not too bad.
Right.
But then you look at the other hand, and it was it wasn't like they lost a ton of yards on sacks or busted one huge 50, 60-yard run. They didn't have a rush longer than 16 yards. So Ohio State gave up a whole bunch of 8s and 10s and 12s and 15s to get to that 157, which... that's not terrible because those aren't considered explosive plays. But next week with a running back and an offensive line that's better than what you saw out there, what is 16 yards for Isaiah Bowser might be 60 yards for Jonathan Taylor.
Well, and I think that is the concern. After the game, I asked Jeff Hafley about that. He was out there talking, and he said he would have to look at it, look at the film. Basically, I said, does seeing Northwestern have some success? Because he mentioned it before I did. Mm-hmm. And I said, does seeing them, for your players, does that maybe wake them up a little bit? And will that get them keyed in more against Wisconsin? He's like, I don't necessarily know that it will help against Wisconsin. But you would have to look at the film, and you'll see why they made those mistakes on film. And then, Tom, interestingly, I asked him, have you watched Wisconsin at all this year?
And he said, no, of course not. We've been taking it 1 week at a time.
But how he said, I don't lie to you guys. Mm-hmm. His answer was, I will tell you next week. But we do take it one game at a time, 1 week at a time. So he chose not to lie, and I guess he will tell us next week that, yeah, they've been looking at Wisconsin a little bit.
Yeah, I greatly enjoy talking to Jeff Hafley because even when he doesn't tell you something, he tells you something.
Yeah, and he chose not to lie and just said, I will answer that question truthfully next week because I don't want to do it now.
I don't want to do it in Northwestern's house.
This path, you just look at all over this Northwestern offense, and yeah, you're right, Tom. 3.3 yards per carry, you'll live with that.
Yeah, I mean,
if they rush for 250 yards and it takes 80 carries to get there, good job.
You don't want to give up 80 snaps defensively. That's not great.
But if all they're only going to do is run it, and you've got 9 overtimes to have all of that happen. But I don't think you can get too charged up or too upset about 3.3 yards per carry. Except that it's Northwestern doing it. It's kind of like with Wisconsin on the horizon, and it just stands out a little bit. That's the only thing about Northwestern's offense that stands out is that they were able to do some things.
Right. I don't want to oversell this. I mean, this is Northwestern's drives. 4 plays, 12 yards. 9 plays, 44 yards, and a field goal. Like, okay, that's that's not great. 5 plays, 9 yards. 5 plays, 29 yards. 4 plays, minus 6 yards. 4 plays, 14 yards. 3 plays, 1 yard. 6 plays, 19 yards. 11 plays, 45 yards. That was right at the end of the third quarter, ended on downs. So, okay. 3 plays, 6 yards. 3 plays, minus 1 yards. 3 plays, 6 yards. And then 9 plays, 39 yards at the very end of the game against, like, the third stringers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you have a 9-play drive in the first quarter. You've got that one, and then that's functionally it. Like, they didn't have any drives longer than 6 plays after that until the very end of the third quarter when the backups come in. I mean, we talked about the deja vu element of it earlier, and I'm probably going to be writing about that as soon as we get done with this podcast, but you had the one drive. It was just like the Nebraska game. Ohio State came out, started a little slow. You kind of went, oh, maybe this is going to be a test. Maybe. And the other team had one drive offensively where they kind of were moving the ball on the ground. You went, oh, is this a thing? And then, nope.
Yep.
Nope.
And Jeff Hafley talked about that after the game as well, and he laughed at the notion of halftime adjustments. He's like, you can't wait that long or else you're dead. You have to adjust after the drive and after that series, and then you move on. You fix what the problem was. You can't wait until halftime.
No.
And we've seen that time and time again where it's that series and that's it, and then they snap it.
This is another one of these deja vu things where we've had some variant of this conversation for at least 3 or 4 weeks in a row, it feels like now. It's like, oh, the other team's doing something. What's going to happen? Is it going to? Nope. And now it's done.
Yeah. It's a lot of defensive guys played for the Buckeyes, and I know the coaches like that. Ryan Day like that. Jeff Hafley like that. Hafley loves seeing Amir Reap and Seven Banks get interceptions. The 2 guys, 2 reserves, get in there and make some plays. I even saw like Justin Hilliard down on the field at the end, made a nice tackle
at the end.
Loss.
Yep.
So it was good to see a bunch of guys play in this one. And even we didn't see Brendan White much, but he still finished with 3 tackles somehow.
Yeah, I feel like we saw Brendan White more on special teams than we did on defense, which was interesting. Because it was, he's been kind of the starter at Bullet all year. And then I felt like we saw more Josh Proctor tonight. We saw, we saw a couple different guys out there that were like, at one point we were talking like, I wonder if he's hurt. And then he was on special teams. And no, he's just not playing. And maybe that's a matchup thing. Maybe that's just Josh Proctor is pretty good. We've talked about Josh Proctor potentially coming up and stealing someone's job at some point, and you're not going to steal Jordan Fuller's job. So
I guess this isn't really an offense where a hybrid player is necessary.
I mean, you barely needed any players tonight at times. I mean, 6 of 22, 6 of 21. Like, goodness, did they really need a secondary? I mean, they had 2 interceptions, and it was like, well, they would have had more, except the passes weren't accurate enough to get intercepted.
And let's be honest, if Sean Wade would squeeze the football, that gets thrown
Sean
right
Wade
to him.
Yeah.
But, we'll leave that alone. And, he's a good kid. It's fine. I'm sure he's kicking himself. Anything else from the Ohio State defense?
You want to talk about Tommy Togiai? He had himself a little bit of a night tonight.
Well, and we get the play-by-play from the PA, like up in the press box after each tackle. They tell you who made a tackle. And there was a time about like 6 tackles in a row, I think, that Tommy Togiai was in. I think he's only credited with 4.
He's only credited with 4 tackles.
But his name was, because they kept pronouncing the name wrong.
Yeah.
Togiai.
Togiai, yes.
Which is, you keep hearing it. It's like, no, you correct that person. But he was always making plays. They were always in there. Strange that you just, out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but it's always somebody, And this week it was him.
Yeah, I asked Chase Young about him, and he said he might be one of the strongest players in all of college football. And he kind of like smiled and laughed when it's that Polynesian strength. And you know what? Yeah. There is a pretty good segment of the defensive line community, especially in that Pacific Northwest. It's like Oregon always has like one or two of those guys. Utah always has one or two of those guys. Yep. Ohio State has one of those guys, and he is living up to all of the stereotypes about Polynesian defensive linemen, and he's only a sophomore. So, you're going to lose Robert Landers next year. You're going to lose Davon Hamilton next year. You're going to lose Jashawn Cornell next year.
And he's going to play a lot.
He's going to play a lot. I mean, that's the thing with Larry Johnson. Like, you've got all these guys, and there's like, wow, these guys are so good. Look at all these guys they're going to lose. And then there's that next line. It's like, all right, well, next man up.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure we'll eventually see that at defensive end when you lose Cooper and Chase Young. And, you've got Zach Harrison, you've got Tyreek Smith, Tyler Friday, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, who was out there again tonight doing some things. Just an impressive group of defenders. Dallas Gant stepped in tonight for Baron Browning. Ryan Day said he expects Baron Browning back next week, which is big.
Yes,
because they play Wisconsin next week.
Yes, Wisconsin does run the ball. You're gonna need that Mike backer.
Yeah, you're gonna need as many linebackers as you can find. And Malik Harrison again, fantastic tonight. I mean, we don't even talk about him.
Right, he's just. Every week I look down at this book at the end of the game, and it's like, oh, there's Malik Harrison at the very top of the list. Seven solo tackles, 2 assists, 9 tackles, half of a tackle for loss, quarterback hurry. Just just another Malik Harrison game. Like he doesn't get. Like, he just doesn't get noticed. Like, last year when the linebackers were pretty consistently getting roasted, you didn't hear about him because he wasn't getting roasted. And then this year you've got kind of the party piece guys like Chase Young, and then you've got kind of the new star defender every week, and it's like, oh, look at the new guy. Oh, look at Chase Young. And just Malik Harrison just keeps chugging along, 9 tackles a game.
I think there were about 3 tackles tonight from him where the ball was shielded by, I guess, the offensive line, and you just see somebody shoot in and destroy the ball carrier. You're like, I bet that was Malik Harrison. And then as he gets up and you see, yes, it was, in fact, Malik Harrison.
There was one screen pass where Chase Young went up to try and deflect it, and you could just see the quarterback just going, oh, crap. and he just kind of dunked it over Chase Young, and the running back caught it and then just immediately just got erased. And it was like, yep, that was one of those Malik Harrison plays.
Yeah, he's a pretty good player. You guys should watch him. Appreciate him. Don't just ignore him when people are going through a box score like we do. Anything else from the Ohio State defense before we go over to that Ohio State offense that is
pretty good? It
is so efficient, Tom, because I say this every week, Justin Fields still hasn't gone off.
Yeah.
He's 194 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, completing about 80% of his passes.
No rushing touchdown this week. What's wrong with him?
Yeah. Well,
has he fallen out of the Heisman conversation completely?
Perhaps. And then J.K. has a decent game. The 68-yarder boosts a lot of that. Mm-hmm. But it looked like 349 yards at the end of the third quarter. You're thinking, well, they're probably not going to get to 400 because now they're bringing all of the backups. Mm-hmm. And then as we're heading downstairs, Master T goes for 73 yards.
We just heard that as we were waiting for the elevator to go downstairs. There was just kind of this loud cheer. It was like, well, that was too loud for it to be the 13 Northwestern fans that are left in the stadium. So Ohio State must have done something.
And then when we were down on the field, Marcus Crowley goes for 53.
Yeah.
And really, it's 279 yards rushing after the fact, basically, 2 touchdowns, 7.5 yards per carry. But that's 141, 194 yards on 3 carries of that 279. So 36 for 80 or whatever. That's that's not great. It was tough sledding for JK down there.
Yeah.
A lot of those 2 yards, 1 yard, 2 yards. But, it's about banging that rock, pounding on that rock until it cracks, and it did on the first play that Thayer Munford came back into the game.
That was such interesting timing because it wasn't like they ran over Thayer Munford on the really long one. They ran it kind of between guard and center. But, yeah, you had Nicholas Petit-Ferg at the start, which, I was down on the field watching before the game, and it was like, Thayer Munford's going to warm-ups. All right, he's repping with the first team. Okay, it's got to be him. And then Nicholas Petit-Ferg was out there with the ones kind of at the very end. It was like, maybe not. And then...
Yeah, because I had the story written in case Thayer Munford wasn't able to go, but he was out there, and then it was Thayer Munford. But he was never out because then obviously he came back in like the third drive or whatever because Petit-Ferg had some struggles.
And he was okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't a, like, you can go back and pick out, like, individual offensive line performances that just, like, blew up games.
It wasn't Isaiah Prince.
I wasn't going to name names. It was not like that. It just was like, there were times that Justin Fields had someone coming at him, and Justin Fields showed some pretty good pocket presence with someone coming off his blind side and just, and like he didn't, I don't know if he got sacked, but he did a very nice job. And
One sack,
okay. And so that, that helps cover for it. And it wasn't like they played some tight ends in there and they ran some, when there were longer routes, you saw a lot of like 2-man routes and tight ends staying in to help block and all that kind of stuff, which we had sort of talked about beforehand. But it was very interesting to see just immediately, as soon as Thayer Munford came in, just boom. It was just, they had just been kind of getting a lot of 3s and 4s, and all of a sudden, boom, 60 yards.
And Ryan Day obviously didn't go into what his issue was, but credited his grittiness for going back out there because he said he was playing hurt.
Yeah.
And if you don't start out the game, clearly there's a reason why. They didn't want him to play, but they also knew that he might have to. Yeah. And that was what happened.
It sounded like, from the way Ryan Day said it, that this was not a new injury. This is kind of like a recurrence of something that we've kind of been monitoring with him for quite a while. So the fact that he's able to play, that's encouraging.
Pain tolerance type of thing, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So
at this point,
and as soon as he was out there, just boom, immediately it seemed like it was all better. And I'm guessing if he was willing to give it a go against Northwestern, he is probably going to be willing to give it a go against Wisconsin.
Good luck keeping anybody in terms of just pain tolerance out of that game against Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's going to be
that's your. If you're not injured, you're going to play. If you're just hurt, you're fine. You can deal with that. Chris Olave, 5 catches, 60 yards. 2 touchdowns after going catchless 2 weeks ago. He was asked about, just getting back involved again. And he said that, I didn't catch anything, but I had 3 targets 2 weeks ago. So that means something. But obviously it's good to get back into the end zone for him. Because that's what? How many touchdown catches does he have now? Like 6? Maybe did he come in with 3 or 4? So
something.
But just good to see him back out there again and doing stuff because he is so good and very smooth with him and Justin Fields. It's not right when they're not connecting, Tom.
No, they're both such good players. They both like Fields has just been so consistently great all season. And Olave, basically since he kind of burst onto the scene just about a year ago now, a little less than a year ago now, he has been just...
It's like his birthday.
Yeah, pretty much.
His football birthday.
Football birthday, not quite. It's going to be a couple more weeks. But yeah, he has been just so consistently, not like overwhelming, but just a very consistent, strong presence for this offense that when they need something, he can do it. No problem. And this is at least his second multiple touchdown catch game of his career. And
I think it's his third, maybe. I think he's had 2 this year now, maybe.
Maybe 2 this year. Yeah, I know he had the one against Michigan last year.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. As you may remember, dear listener, Ohio State scored a number of touchdowns against Michigan last year.
Wow, good job on him. J.K. Dobbins involved in the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
They put that pass play, that angle route in
Yeah.
this week. Ryan Day saw some things on film that he thought this would work against, and
he was right.
He got lucky this time. Once again, Ryan Day gets lucky by calling the right play and scouting properly, like he's a good coach or something. Garrett Wilson, 3 for 28. I always, I think we're Garrett Wilson fans because we like to see what he can do with the football, and he's getting involved more and more. And made a nice move tonight, and got away from somebody, but this is just a start for him. KJ Hill, 2 for 19, barely keeps his catch streak alive. Yeah. Getting a little close there.
He's at 41 games now. Doug Donnelly, the school record, is 48. So that's
crazy.
He's depending on how many games they play. If they play 15 games, I think he has a chance to break it. If I have done the math correctly, or no, he can tie it if they play 15 games.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, break it.
Break it. Tie it.
It's real late.
It is. It is very late. Do we want to talk to some questions?
Sure, we can run through
Let's
some
talk to some questions.
Let's talk to some questions. Let's do the words.
It's even later for you guys.
It is. Brad says on to Wisconsin. Yes.
Did he say on Wisconsin?
He said on parentheses to Wisconsin. Okay. He says Andre Ware thought we were harsh. I mean, but this is not like one of those old early 90s Houston teams because they can do it in a couple different ways to you. Ryan says, love seeing the young guys step up in the third and fourth, making big impact plays. Seven Banks, Master Teague, Amir Reap, and Marcus Crowley.
Yeah, maybe we should write about that.
Did we ask people about that? I don't even remember.
Ryan Day talked a little bit, but and Hafley did a little bit. But it is always fun to watch these young guys step up, and I mean that's always one of my favorite things about college football. It's just the replenishment of the talent.
Yeah,
and we're talking about Ohio State losing 3 quarters after this season. We talked about Cameron Brown last week, and he played a bunch tonight again. Yeah. To see Seven Banks do something again, nearly score. I thought it was. I totally missed his knee being down when he caught that interception. But it would be good to see him get involved. I saw Tyreek Johnson after the game.
Yep.
He was smiling. He was laughing.
Yeah.
And I always worry about him because it's almost like he's been passed by. Mm-hmm. But
I mean, he was out there on that last drive. He was on the. So he would have been on the top of your TV screen.
Yeah, and he was having fun with Marcus Crowley. They both went to the same high school.
Yep.
Trinity Christian
in Jacksonville.
Academy.
Yep. Next one from Eddie Perry. Hey guys, great game. Tough to not have confidence from top to bottom in this team. Best Buckeye team ever. I was talking to our buddy Jack Park after the game, because Jack is, if you don't know, Jack is basically the dean of Ohio State football history. Yeah. He knows everything about everything. And I said, have you ever seen a team do this, like this far into the season? He said, never. I mean, just so consistently, just every week. Like, there's not like, there's the one week where they just kind of forget to show up and they squeak by. Like, no, this is just like, all right. The game kicks off, and into the blender, hit liquefy, and do that for 3 hours, and then you're done, and then on to the next one.
Yeah, what's the weak spot? Is it the run defense, which it's not because they're probably giving up 80 yards rushing a game?
Run offense sometimes, maybe.
But,
I mean, they're
like third in the nation in rushing. So.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. Kicking.
Unless
we just hit a 55-yarder.
We have to come up with something bad to talk about. Otherwise, we just have to do this podcast. Is just going to turn into us, dancing around in the box, and so
we'll figure something out. I mean if we can tear some stuff down.
If you want to have a something to worry about conversation, they've been up by 17 points or more at halftime in every single one of these games. How are they going to respond when it? At some point, someone is going to give this team a game. I mean, you go back to the dominating Miami Hurricanes teams. Like they had the one dumb game against Boston College, or Nebraska always had the one dumb game against someone in the mid '90s. Like you're going to have that one dumb game. So how is this team going to respond then? But
ask Ryan Day that.
Yeah.
This week. Hey, Ryan, the one dumb game.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it's almost impossible to get a college football team to not have the one dumb game. I mean, that's in the same way that you never predict a shutout in a game. Gerd, who predicted a shutout and was wrong, did not nail Northwestern's point total exactly like some people on this podcast did. In the same way that you never predict a shutout, you never pick a team to go undefeated because you have to assume that at some point, if things are going too well, everyone gets a little too full of themselves, gets a little cocky, loses focus, and then they they find the banana peel. I mean, it happens. It happens. And that's not like just an Ohio State thing. That's just like, yep, Alabama loses dumb games sometimes. Yeah. It happens.
When Ole Miss has a highly paid offensive brain trust and skill position players, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything. But, you talk about championship teams where they have a close win, and that's always, every championship team has one of those wins. Most of them do. It's very rare where a championship team wins everything by 2 scores or something. I mean, it happens, but maybe like once a decade or once every 2 decades where there's really no one possession game in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking through it. I can't think of one right now, but like I keep thinking of like, hey, that dominating 1994 Penn State team almost lost to Indiana that year,
right.
And it wasn't like it was like, oh, it was a great Indiana. No, there's no such thing as a great Indiana team. It was like
the 98 Ohio State team, if you wanted to bring that up.
I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to do that to our listeners, Gerd. I don't know why you would do that.
On a late Friday night.
Brad says, making a long field goal, Hallbeal and the whole team celebrating while leaving the field was great to see. Team chemistry looks to be championship caliber. I mean, that was like an exciting moment. And I will fully admit, I went, oh no, this is stupid. What are you doing? Like, why are you kicking a 55-yard field goal?
I'm glad you admit that because I was going to.
Oh no, I am 100%. And statistically, it's not probably the most likely outcome, but
it gives him confidence though, as long as he makes it.
As far as like the soft factor stuff, like I mean, it was 28-3. So even if you get it blocked and run back, it's 28-10. So okay, but yeah, I mean, in terms of Blake Hallbeal's confidence going into next week, like, yep. Because they have not needed him to do basically anything this year. It's just like, okay, go kick the ball off. But, he kicked the ball off out of bounds once tonight, and it was like, well, okay, well, that's fine. The other team's not going to do anything with it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But
he was fired up after that kick. He was running around. I think he ran about a 4.25.
I have a video. We'll end up writing about that. I shot a video of that from the press box. It was like, well, something interesting is going to happen here probably. So I'll put that up there. But, yeah, I've got... because we're a million miles up here, you can see the whole Ohio State bench just like erupt, like off the sideline, like they just won the national championship.
I would say they won the pennant.
Yeah, that's a different sport. Now I'm just being mean.
It's so late, Tom.
Brad says Justin Fields would go off when the wide receivers quit dropping passes. Mack and Victor let Olave and Wilson get more playing time with their start. Though Mack made amends with his touchdown. I mean, both Mack and Victor have, they've been kind of up and down. But
that was early on, but they were also contested and they got hit. But I think
Northwestern was a little clutchy and grabby tonight, and they got called for it. But that's what you do when you don't have players who can run with. Jamison Williams very nearly had about a 70-yard touchdown, but Northwestern took a very smart pass interference or holding call there. Ryan says Bowser was giving our backers fits, but he spelled it F-I-T-Z. And he says, ba-boom. So, but seriously, it seemed like he was giving Tough and Warner like a handle. Not a fun feeling heading into Wisconsin, but other than that, tonight was lights out.
And Bowser finished with 65 yards rushing on 16 carries. It's a 4-yard average. And that's what stands out most is that success that they had. And he is a powerful runner. And I think it has to be a bit of a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Because you have to take that seriously. And so they will. And I see it kind of as a positive. And that you realize, okay, we're not as perfect as we think we are. And that's something that the players always tell us, though. And something the coaches always tell us, that there's plenty to correct. And, you go, You went on the road, you won 52-3. And the defense is going to be like, well, we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you want.
Well, that's what coaches talk about. Like, the perfect first game of the year is you win comfortably, but you have a whole bunch of stuff you want to fix. They've been very good about stressing that, and if they can really keep having that message resonate with players, that's how you have the season that everyone
And these guys
remembers.
seem very in tune with all of that coach stuff. Like they seem to be buying into it, and they see the results on the field, which I think helps.
Yeah.
They trust the coaches completely because look at this out there.
Yeah. Thomas says Fields played one drive too many, otherwise simply the best ever. I mean, the last drive when he and Dobbins were out there, it was like, they don't. I mean, like, I get it. Like, Ryan Day wants to play him and get him more reps, get him used to that 4-quarter kind of game. But if one of those guys had gotten hurt, that would have been like, ooh, that is something people are going to talk about for a while.
And he talks about how it is kind of a difficult thing to know or to pull somebody out. And did we go one series too far? Or, he seems to be leaning on the side of aggression, which I guess is what you want.
Right. Yeah. You don't want the coach like Pat Fitzgerald who's going to be down 21-3, 28-3, and punt on 4th and 5 on the Ohio State side of the field. Like, dude, come on. Like, at that point, just you're forfeiting. Like, you've got to be a little bit aggressive. And Ryan Day, kind of in the lead up to halftime this season, there have been a bunch of games where it's like, you could have been a little more aggressive with it. Today, went for it. They didn't get it. They punted it away. And then when they killed it at the 1, as Northwestern's trying to just kill the clock, Ryan Day's calling timeouts on defense.
I love that.
That was great. That was great, good, aggressive strategy. And they get the ball back. Had just kind of like, it was like, I think, a sack or a penalty or something.
Yeah.
And they run like a screen pass or a drag or something to Dobbins. And he couldn't get out of bounds, so they had to clock it. And that set up that Hallbill kick, which, you know what? You got 3 points, which ultimately didn't make much of a difference, but
it meant a lot more than that.
A lot more than that in kind of that big picture.
And I think that's something that could pay forward, continue throughout the season. Just the confidence that, hey, we've got a guy that can hit a 55-yarder.
Yeah, yep. Troy said linebackers couldn't shed blocks.
Yeah, I'll be interested to watch after whenever we get back home.
Yeah,
and see how that goes and see how they did, because I saw other people saying that as well, and I guess if somebody's going to run for 157 yards on you, that's going to be one of the issues.
Yep. Thomas says Northwestern always a tough out. This team is beyond most of my fears. I mean, we were talking about that earlier. It's you went through the schedule before the year, and I was like, okay, Cincinnati could give them a game. Nebraska could give them a game. Michigan State could be dangerous. Northwestern on the road. I mean, you've taken care of the 2 Big Ten West road trips. As you may or may not remember, those have been a little bit of an issue in the past. This year, nope.
You made it.
Hey, congratulations. You're through. You don't have to do it again until next year. And then you have to play Illinois and someone else. I don't remember.
But yeah, I mean, you get through the West, and now you just have to just take care of your division.
Yeah, and you've got Wisconsin next week. That'll be a challenge, but it's at home. Then another week off, and then you've got a couple. You've got you've got the ACC team and the Big East team, and then you finish strong. And I mean, you get through Wisconsin, and then you basically have potentially that 5-game stretch to finish the year, which would be Penn State, Michigan, Big Ten championship game, and 2 playoff
When you looked
games.
at the schedule this season, I never saw this Wisconsin game being this big.
No, I looked at Wisconsin last year and thought, I think they might have kind of peaked already. And
my thing was, I didn't think anything of Jack Cohn.
Yeah,
and I figured it would be Graham Mertz, the freshman quarterback, and he's going to be very good. But just as a freshman, you're not going to be too concerned about him. And I think the recency bias from last year, but that was a lot of Hornibrook.
Yeah.
So I think all of that played into this underestimation of Wisconsin, who is very balanced. You know, Jack Cohn is playing extremely well, and I'm sure we'll talk about Wisconsin down the road.
Maybe. We may find
if
some
we
time
remember,
to discuss it.
yes.
Yeah, this week, maybe. Bob says, Gerd, I apologize. I know I said 52-0. I am ashamed. See, this is picking shutouts. This is what I'm saying. Only one of us nailed the Northwestern score exactly. Again, and Gerd, who was that?
It was... Well, who's to say?
If you're listening on the podcast, you can't see it, but I'm pointing to myself.
Tom was always pointing at himself, yes. I did predict 35-0. You predicted 31-3. Mm-hmm. And it's a testament to the Ohio State offense that we were so far off. Mm-hmm. And we had respect for a very good Northwestern defense. And once again, this Ohio State offense just continues to reset the rules.
Yeah, it's just every week it's like, I feel like I do those predictions, and it's like, well, I don't want to predict anything crazy. I don't want to pick them to beat everyone 70-0. So then you pick something a little lower, and it's just like, oh no, it's halftime, and it's literally already the score I picked for the final.
Give me your Rutgers prediction right now, like 72-3. I mean, how do they get 72? I don't know. Safety.
I mean, how does Rutgers get 3? Honestly, that's much more of the mystery there. How does Rutgers get 3?
Because even now, like I would expect Gunnar Hoke and Chris Cheganoff to be able to lead like 4 or 5 touchdown drives in the second half.
I mean, that's the score of that game is whatever Ryan Day wants the score of that game to be. If Ryan Day wants to score, I mean, if Ryan Day and Chris Ash did not overlap on the Ohio State coaching staff, so there's no you did my friend wrong kind of thing. If there was, I mean, what was the 1916 game where they beat Oberlin or someone like 116-0, Marietta, someone like 116-0. Like that's entirely in play if Ohio State wants it to be. They won't, because that's the week before Penn State, so they're going to have. They are going to I don't want to. Okay, just like Jeff Hafley, I'm not going to lie to you. Okay, ready? They're going to spend a lot of that week doing stuff that is not for the Rutgers game, and they're going to be working ahead for Penn State. And they probably won't say the words Penn State out loud, but they will know these plays we're putting in.
You got to use these bye weeks wisely.
Exactly. Yeah. This is an Ohio State season with 3 bye weeks. So, and they have a long week now. They have they're going to take Saturday off. The player said, and then Sunday. Back at it.
Getting ready for Wisconsin.
Get ready for Wisconsin.
Anything else, Tom? Are we all caught up on questions?
We are all caught up on questions. We want to have our final conversation about the exciting news coming this week.
Yep. So we will be putting out our Patreon page at some point this week.
Yeah, maybe tonight or tomorrow. Just so we'll launch it. We'll tweet out the link.
Yeah, definitely. And so it'll be there, and various tiers of monthly subscription types. And basically, if there's anything else you guys would like to see or hear, we are open for suggestions. We've been tossing around a college football podcast.
Mm-hmm. A national college football podcast. We kind of do a college football podcast already.
But a national perspective, because, there's always stuff going on, and it's our favorite sport, next to Mets baseball.
No, that's no one's favorite sport. And that's something that the National College Football Podcast is something we've gotten some pretty good feedback on. That's something people are interested in. People have talked about maybe reviewing some old games. Yeah. That's more of like an off-season thing. Right. If there's something you want, let us know.
We got nothing going on.
This is for you. This only works if this is something you're interested in. So let us know.
We're excited about it, and we hope you are. And you guys subscribe, take a look at it, and see if it's something you're interested in.
All right, one more thing. Since we're wrapping up, and it seems so weird, but the college football weekend hasn't really started yet for the most part. So Thomas wants to know a few words about the whiteout.
Michigan is going to have a bad time in the whiteout. I don't. Shane Patterson is not the kind of quarterback that will do well there.
We've been in that environment. We were there last year for the Ohio State Penn State game for the whiteout. It's loud. Yeah. It's just, it's a little I don't want to say disorienting, but it's just like there's white everywhere. There's all sorts of shaking pom poms. And everyone's all full of liquid school spirit, and
it helps to have a JT Barrett or a Dwayne Haskins.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and they ain't got one.
Yeah, and next year, I don't think Ohio State probably has a ton to fear with Justin Fields at quarterback.
I agree,
but Michigan does not have a Justin Fields or a JT Barrett or a Dwayne Haskins.
No, and I don't think they take solace in their coaches.
No,
I think
right.
they reflect all of this kind of concern and fear, and it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be good for Michigan. I'd say 27-10 ish, something like that.
Yeah, I don't see Michigan's defense completely shutting down Penn State's offense. I'm not completely sold on Sean Clifford yet.
Right.
And their offensive line is okay, but not great. I think they've found something with Noah Kane. But yeah, where does the Michigan?
And there's going to be a Michigan turnover in their own red zone, something of that nature, for an easy touchdown drive, and I almost don't see any way Michigan wins this.
Yeah,
that's where I'm feeling.
It's almost like the 2016 Ohio State Penn State game where you need this confluence of crazy events to happen. You need the blocked field goal, you need the blocked punt run back for a touchdown, and that's what it takes to win. Michigan needs something like that. Michigan needs, a couple crazy special teams plays or, a pick six or for the other team to start fumbling and not, and Michigan to hang on to the football for once. I mean, something that is dramatically different from what we've seen so far this year in order to make that.
And I don't see that happening. So, all right, I guess that'll do it. And again, we'll tweet out the links for the Patreon once that goes live. You guys can take a look at it and see what you think. And we will be talking to you guys next on Tuesday as we get ready for the biggest week of the season, Ohio State's first real test this year.
Maybe. I'm getting deja vu again.
All right, well, we'll talk to you again, and we'll deja vu then as well. See ya.